The morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of the Central City Zoo as Staff Sergeant James Cooper carefully helped his 8-year-old daughter Emma out of their blue Toyota Camry. It was a perfect spring Saturday, with birds chirping in the trees and a gentle breeze carrying the promise of adventure. This was their first real father-daughter day since Cooper had returned from his third tour in Afghanistan 3 weeks ago. Emma could barely contain her excitement, bouncing on her toes as she waited for her father to lock the car. Her dark braids swung back and forth with each bounce, and her pink t-shirt with a smiling tiger on the front matched her enthusiasm perfectly. Cooper couldn't help but smile at her energy. It was so different from the tension-filled days he had experienced during his deployment. "Daddy, do you think the tigers will be awake? Sarah from my class said they were sleeping when she came last week," Emma asked, her big brown eyes looking up at him with concern. Cooper adjusted his plain black baseball cap and reached down to hold her small hand. "Well, sweetheart, it's still morning, and tigers are usually more active during this time," he explained, remembering the wildlife documentaries they used to watch together before his deployment. "Plus, I heard they just got 2 new young tigers in the exhibit." They walked toward the entrance, joining the small line of families waiting to buy tickets. Cooper stood straight and tall, a habit from his military training that he couldn't shake even in civilian clothes. He wore a simple gray t-shirt, blue jeans, and comfortable walking shoes, a far cry from his usual combat boots and uniform. The only hint of his military background was the subtle U.S. Army tattoo visible on his right forearm and his alert, watchful eyes that continuously scanned his surroundings. As they waited, Emma told him all about what he had missed at school. She talked about her science project about butterflies, her new best friend Maria, and how she had improved her multiplication tables. Cooper listened intently, treasuring every word. During his deployment, their video calls had been brief and often interrupted by poor connection or military duties. Now, hearing her voice clearly and seeing her animated expressions in person filled his heart with joy. The line moved quickly, and soon Cooper was paying for their tickets. The young woman at the counter noticed Emma's tiger shirt and smiled warmly. "You're in luck. The new tigers have been very playful this morning. Make sure to catch the feeding demonstration at 11:30. Emma's eyes lit up at this news, and she tugged at her father's hand, eager to get moving. Cooper checked his watch. It was 9:45 a.m., giving them plenty of time to explore before the feeding demonstration. They stopped at a large zoo map near the entrance, and Cooper lifted Emma up so she could better see the different sections. "Look, Daddy, the tiger exhibit is in the Asia zone," Emma pointed excitedly at the map. "Can we go there first? Please, please, please." Cooper chuckled, setting her back down. "How about we make it more interesting? We'll visit the smaller exhibits on the way there. That way, the tigers will be like the grand finale of our morning." He knew from experience that building up to the main event often made it more special. They started their journey through the zoo, stopping first at the colorful bird sanctuary. Emma was fascinated by the bright macaws and laughing kookaburras. Cooper found himself relaxing more with each step, the peaceful environment helping to ease the hypervigilance that had become second nature during his deployment. As they walked, Cooper noticed other families enjoying their Saturday morning. Children ran around with ice cream cones, parents pushed strollers, and elderly couples sat on benches enjoying the sunshine. It was exactly the kind of normal, peaceful scene he had dreamed about during long nights in Afghanistan. Emma's excitement grew as they got closer to the Asia zone. They could see the large, modern building that housed the tiger exhibit in the distance. The morning crowd was still relatively thin, and Cooper hoped they would have a good view of the new tigers. Just then, Emma spotted an ice cream cart near the path. "Daddy, can we get ice cream? I promise I'll eat all my lunch later." Cooper looked at his daughter's hopeful face and smiled. After missing so many moments like this, how could he say no? "Sure, princess. One ice cream cone coming up, but remember your promise about lunch." As they walked toward the ice cream cart, Cooper felt truly at peace for the first time since returning home. The simple joy of spending time with his daughter at the zoo was helping him adjust to civilian life better than any therapy session. Little did he know that this peaceful morning was about to take an unexpected turn. As Emma happily licked her vanilla ice cream cone, the rumble of motorcycle engines echoed through the zoo's pathways. Cooper's military-trained ears picked up the sound before anyone else did, and he instinctively looked toward its source. Three large motorcycles pulled into the parking lot, their engines unnecessarily loud and disturbing the peaceful atmosphere. Through the zoo's entrance gates, Cooper watched as three men from the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club swaggered in. The leader, a tall man with a scraggly beard and a leather vest covered in patches, stumbled slightly as he walked. His name patch read Derek, and his bloodshot eyes suggested he had been drinking, despite it being barely 10 a.m. Derek was flanked by two other bikers, a shorter, muscular man with a shaved head who kept cracking his knuckles, and a skinny guy with a snake tattoo crawling up his neck. They pushed past a family at the ticket counter, tossing crumpled bills at the startled attendant who had greeted Cooper and Emma earlier. "Daddy, why are those men so loud?" Emma asked, shrinking closer to her father as the biker's coarse laughter carried across the pathway. Cooper gently squeezed her shoulder. "Some people just don't know how to behave in public, sweetheart. Let's focus on getting to those tigers," he said calmly, though his combat-honed instincts were already noting potential escape routes and analyzing the bikers' movements. Unfortunately, the bikers were also heading toward the Asia zone. They swaggered down the path, making rude comments about the animals and shoving past other visitors. Parents pulled their children aside, and elderly couples quickly found different routes to take. The peaceful morning atmosphere had shifted into something tense and uncomfortable. Cooper and Emma reached the tiger exhibit first. The space was impressive. A large, modern facility with floor-to-ceiling glass panels that offered clear views of the beautiful animals. Two young Bengal tigers were playing near the glass, batting at each other and rolling in the grass. Emma's eyes widened with wonder, temporarily forgetting about the scary men behind them. "Look, Daddy, they're playing just like big kitty cats," she exclaimed, pressing her free hand against the glass. Cooper smiled, watching his daughter's joy while keeping one ear tuned to the approaching heavy boots behind them. The three bikers burst into the viewing area, their voices echoing off the walls. Derek had a half-empty beer bottle poorly hidden in a paper bag, which he swung around as he talked. "Hey, check out the big cats. Bet they ain't so tough behind that glass." The shortest biker, the one with the shaved head, laughed too loudly. "Maybe we should wake him up proper, show him who's boss." He pulled out his keys and started tapping them against the protective glass, making sharp, irritating sounds. Other families in the viewing area began to edge away. A mother hurried past with her toddler, shooting worried glances at the bikers. The elderly couple who had been peacefully watching the tigers slowly made their way toward the exit. Cooper felt Emma press against his leg, her ice cream forgotten as she watched the tigers react to the noise. The beautiful animals had stopped playing and were now pacing nervously, their ears flattened against their heads. "Hey, Snake Neck," Derek called to his skinny friend. "Bet you can't make that big one roar." The biker with the snake tattoo grinned and started pounding on the glass with his fist, the loud thuds echoing through the viewing area. A zoo volunteer, a young woman probably in her early 20s, approached the group nervously. "Excuse me, sir, but we ask that visitors don't touch the glass. It disturbs the animals." "Mind your own business, sweetheart," Derek sneered, taking another swig from his concealed bottle. The volunteer retreated quickly, speaking urgently into her radio. Cooper watched all this while keeping Emma close. His jaw tightened as he saw other children becoming frightened, some even crying as their parents rushed them away from the exhibit. The tigers were now showing visible signs of stress, and one had retreated to the back of the enclosure. Emma's ice cream cone was crushed in her tight grip, starting to drip onto her shoes. She didn't seem to notice. "Daddy," she whispered, "the tigers look scared. Can we help them?" Cooper took a deep breath. He had hoped for a peaceful day at the zoo, but sometimes peace needed to be protected. As a soldier, he had sworn to defend others, and that duty didn't end just because he was in civilian clothes. The bikers were ruining everyone's day and causing distress to both people and animals. Something needed to be done. Cooper gently guided Emma a few steps back from the glass, wiping her hands clean of the melted ice cream with a tissue from his pocket. He knelt down to her level, speaking softly but clearly. "Stay right here where I can see you, Princess. Daddy needs to talk to these men." Years of military training had taught Cooper how to approach volatile situations. He stood tall but kept his posture relaxed, hands visible and open, nothing that could be seen as threatening. He walked toward the bikers with measured steps, his combat boots making no sound on the polished floor. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Cooper said in a firm but neutral tone. The three bikers turned to face him, Derek still holding his poorly concealed beer bottle. "I'm Staff Sergeant James Cooper, recently returned from Afghanistan. I'd appreciate it if you could tone things down a bit. You're frightening the children and stressing out the animals." Derek's bloodshot eyes narrowed as he looked Cooper up and down. Well, looks like we got ourselves a hero," he sneered, his words slightly slurred. "Did we hurt the little kitty cat's feelings?" The other two bikers snickered, but Cooper noticed the one with the snake tattoo shifting nervously. "Listen," Cooper continued calmly, "I respect everyone's right to enjoy the zoo, but there are families here. Kids trying to learn about animals. Why don't we make this easy and just keep it peaceful?" He maintained eye contact with Derek while staying aware of the other two bikers' positions, another habit from his combat training. Derek took a step closer, trying to use his slight height advantage to intimidate Cooper. The smell of alcohol was strong on his breath. "And what if we don't want to make it easy, soldier boy? What are you going to do about it?" Before Cooper could respond, the bald biker resumed banging his keys against the glass, harder this time. The tigers, already agitated, began pacing more frantically. A small boy nearby started crying, and his father quickly picked him up and headed for the exit. "Last time I checked," Derek continued, swaying slightly, "this was a free country. Isn't that what you fought for, soldier boy? Our freedom to do whatever we want." He deliberately turned and shoulder-checked a passing teenager, causing the boy to stumble. Cooper remained still, his voice level. "Freedom comes with responsibility. Right now, you're abusing that freedom and ruining everyone else's day." He could see zoo security approaching in the distance. They were still several minutes away. Derek's face reddened with anger. He didn't like being lectured, especially not in front of his friends. "Oh yeah? Well, maybe your little girl would like to learn about freedom too." He turned suddenly and started walking toward Emma, who was standing exactly where Cooper had left her. Cooper smoothly stepped into Derek's path, his movement precise and controlled. "That's not going to happen." His voice had dropped lower, carrying the quiet authority that had commanded troops in combat zones. The bald biker stopped rattling his keys and moved to Derek's side, while Snake Tattoo circled around, trying to flank Cooper. Other zoo visitors pressed themselves against the walls, phones out, some recording the confrontation while others presumably called for help. "You think you're tough because you played soldier in the desert," Derek spat, his face inches from Cooper's. "This ain't the army, hero. This is our town, and you're gonna learn some respect." Cooper noticed the bald biker's hand moving toward his jacket pocket. He also caught a glint of metal from Snake Tattoo's direction. His combat instincts went into high alert, but he kept his voice steady. "Respect is earned, not forced. Right now, you're not earning anything but trouble." Emma's voice suddenly cut through the tension. "Daddy," she sounded scared, and Cooper could hear her small footsteps moving closer despite his instructions to stay put. Derek's lips curved into an ugly smile as he heard Emma approach. Well, looks like Daddy's little girl wants to join our conversation." He started to turn toward her again, his movement aggressive and threatening. In that moment, Cooper knew the situation had reached its breaking point. He had tried diplomacy, had attempted to diffuse the situation peacefully, but these men had chosen to escalate. As Derek's hand began to reach toward his daughter, Cooper's combat-trained mind switched from de-escalation to protection mode. What happened next would happen very quickly. Time seemed to slow down for Cooper as his military training took over. In the span of seconds, his mind processed everything around him. Emma's frightened breathing behind him, Derek's aggressive movement, the bald biker's hand in his jacket, and the Snake Tattoo guy's shifting stance. 3 threats, 1 civilian to protect, multiple bystanders to consider. Derek's hand shot out toward Emma, but Cooper was already moving. With the fluid precision that came from years of close combat training, he stepped sideways, simultaneously pushing Emma back with his left hand, while his right hand deflected Derek's reaching arm. The movement was so smooth and quick that Derek lost his balance, stumbling forward and dropping his concealed beer bottle, which shattered on the floor. "Run to the information desk, Emma. Now," Cooper commanded in his clear battlefield voice. Emma, recognizing her father's serious tone from their safety drills at home, immediately turned and ran toward the exit. Several zoo visitors moved to protect her path. The bald biker pulled a switchblade from his jacket, its blade clicking open with a metallic snap. But Cooper had fought against much worse in Afghanistan. He moved like water, his muscles remembering countless hours of combat training. As the bald biker lunged forward, Cooper sidestepped, grabbed the man's knife hand, and used his own momentum against him. In one smooth motion, he twisted the knife away and sent the bald biker sprawling into Derek, who was still trying to regain his balance. Snake Tattoo Guy revealed brass knuckles, throwing a wild punch at Cooper's head. Cooper ducked under the swing, years of hand-to-hand combat making his movements instinctive. The brass knuckles hit only air as Cooper stepped inside the biker's reach. With precise pressure on specific nerve points, Cooper locked the man's arm and directed him face first into the exhibit's wall, careful to use only enough force to subdue, not injure. "Stay down," Cooper warned in a voice that had commanded troops through firefights. "You don't want this to get worse." But Derek, enraged and humiliated, scrambled back to his feet and charged at Cooper like an angry bull. Cooper shifted his weight slightly, using Derek's own momentum and poor balance against him. With a carefully controlled hip throw, the same one he taught to new recruits, he sent Derek to the ground. The biker landed hard, the impact knocking the wind from his lungs. The bald biker, now without his knife, tried to rush Cooper from behind. But Cooper's situational awareness, honed in the dangerous streets of Afghanistan, had never stopped tracking all three men. He pivoted smoothly, blocked the wild attack, and used a simple joint lock to guide the biker to his knees. The hold was painful, but caused no permanent damage, a technique perfect for controlling without harming. Snake Tattoo Guy, seeing his friends taken down so easily, backed away with his hands raised. "Hey man, we don't want any trouble." His tough guy act had evaporated in the face of real combat skill. Zoo security finally arrived, followed by 2 police officers who had been nearby. They found Cooper standing calmly, the bald biker still controlled in the joint lock, Derek gasping on the ground, and Snake Tattoo Guy backing away with his hands up. The broken beer bottle, dropped knife, and brass knuckles lay scattered on the floor as evidence. "These men have weapons," Cooper reported professionally to the officers. "The knife is over there, and there's a set of brass knuckles by the wall." They were threatening children and harassing families. His voice was steady and clear, the same tone he used to report to superior officers. The police quickly took control of the situation, handcuffing the 3 bikers while additional officers arrived. Security cameras had captured everything, and dozens of witnesses came forward, phones in hand with recorded videos of the entire incident. Through the crowd, Cooper spotted Emma safe at the information desk, holding the hand of the kind ticket seller from earlier. His daughter's eyes were wide, but she wasn't crying. Instead, she looked at her father with a mixture of awe and relief. Cooper had protected her just as he promised he always would, whether in military or civilian life. The tigers in the exhibit had stopped pacing and now watched the scene with curious eyes, as if they too appreciated the return of order to their domain. Cooper took a deep breath, his heartbeat already returning to normal. The situation had been handled with minimal force and no serious injuries, exactly as his military training had taught him. As the police led the 3 bikers away in handcuffs, the tiger exhibit area buzzed with excited chatter. Visitors who had hidden behind pillars or fled to the exits now returned, many holding up phones that had recorded the entire incident. Cooper stood calmly, giving his statement to Officer Martinez, a female police officer with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. "Sir, that was some impressive work," Officer Martinez said, finishing her notes. "Where did you learn those techniques?" She had noticed how Cooper had subdued the bikers without causing any serious injuries. "3 tours in Afghanistan, ma'am," Cooper replied respectfully. Close combat training was mandatory, but our instructors always emphasized minimum necessary force. He glanced toward the information desk where Emma waited, still holding the ticket seller's hand. "Would it be all right if I check on my daughter now?" The officer nodded with understanding. "Of course. We'll need you to come to the station later to file a formal statement, but we have more than enough evidence here." She gestured to the weapons being photographed and bagged by her colleagues, then at the security cameras and dozens of witness phones. Cooper walked quickly to Emma, who let go of the ticket seller's hand and ran to him. He scooped her up in his arms, holding her close as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Despite the chaos she had just witnessed, she wasn't crying, something that made Cooper both proud and a little sad. His daughter was already learning to be strong in difficult situations. "You did so good, Princess," he whispered to her. "You remembered our safety drill perfectly." He felt her nod against his shoulder. The ticket seller, whose name tag read Sarah, smiled at them. "She was very brave," she said. "She ran straight here just like you told her and explained the situation clearly." Sarah had already given her statement to another officer about how she had helped protect Emma during the incident. A small crowd had gathered around Cooper, including many parents with their children. A father stepped forward, his young son holding his hand. "Thank you, Sergeant," he said sincerely. "Those men were frightening everyone, especially the kids. You handled it amazingly." The zoo's director, a tall woman in a professional suit, hurried up to them. "Staff Sergeant Cooper, I'm Dr. Anderson, the zoo director. I can't thank you enough for your intervention. Our security team was delayed by another incident at the front gate, which we now suspect was staged by these men's associates to clear the path for them." Cooper shifted Emma to his hip, keeping her close as he shook Dr. Anderson's offered hand. "Just happened to be in the right place at the right time, ma'am. I'm just glad no one was hurt." "The right place indeed," Dr. Anderson agreed. "We've had trouble with this motorcycle gang before, but nothing this bold. Thanks to your actions, we can now press serious charges." She looked at Emma with a warm smile. "And how are you doing, sweetheart? I heard you were very brave too." Emma lifted her head from Cooper's shoulder. "I'm okay. I was scared, but Daddy stopped the bad men. Just like he stopped bad men in Afghanistan," she said, carefully pronouncing the word she'd heard so many times. The young zoo volunteer who had tried to stop the bikers earlier approached timidly. "Sir, the tigers have calmed down now. Would you and your daughter like a special viewing? Our zoologist is here and can give you a private presentation to make up for what happened." Cooper looked at Emma, who nodded eagerly despite her recent scare. "That would be wonderful, thank you," he replied. As they walked toward the now peaceful tiger enclosure, Cooper noticed something had changed in how people looked at him. There was respect in their eyes, but not just for his military service, for how he protected others while keeping his cool in a crisis. Some parents were even explaining to their children how he had handled the situation without resorting to unnecessary violence. Emma reached out to hold his hand as they walked. "Daddy," she said thoughtfully, "you're not just a soldier for America, are you? You're like a soldier for everyone who needs help." Cooper squeezed her small hand gently, touched by her understanding. His military training had served him well today, but it was his daughter's safety and the presence of innocent families that had guided his actions. As they approached the tiger exhibit again, he realized that being a protector wasn't just about fighting. It was about knowing when and how to act, always keeping the safety of others as the highest priority. The private tiger presentation turned out to be exactly what both Cooper and Emma needed after the excitement of the morning. Dr. Sarah Chen, the zoo's lead tiger specialist, took them behind the scenes to a special viewing area. Emma's earlier fear had completely disappeared, replaced by fascination as Dr. Chen explained interesting facts about the tigers. "These two are brothers," Dr. Chen explained, pointing to the young tigers who were now playfully wrestling with each other. "Raja and Khan came to us from a conservation program in India. They're only 2 years old, so they're still quite playful, just like big kittens." Emma pressed her face against the special viewing window, completely absorbed in watching the magnificent animals. Cooper stood behind her, one hand protectively on her shoulder, as Dr. Chen continued her explanation. "You know," Dr. Chen said thoughtfully, "tigers are a lot like soldiers in some ways. They're powerful and can be dangerous when threatened, but they don't look for fights. They're actually very careful and strategic, only using their strength when necessary. Just like you did today, Sergeant Cooper." Cooper nodded, understanding the comparison. "They're also protective of their family," he added, watching how the slightly larger tiger, Raja, always kept himself between his brother and the viewing window. It reminded him of how he had positioned himself between Emma and the bikers. A zoo security guard approached them quietly, waiting until Dr. Chen finished explaining about the tiger's daily routine. "Excuse me, Sergeant Cooper. The police would like you to know that they finished processing the scene. They found something concerning in the bikers' phones." Cooper turned to the guard, keeping his voice low so Emma wouldn't hear. What did they find? Messages suggesting this wasn't random. The Iron Wolves gang has been planning to cause trouble at family locations around town. They've been filming reactions for some kind of social media challenge. The police think you may have helped break up something much bigger. This news made Cooper's jaw tighten. He had suspected the incident wasn't entirely random. The bikers had been too prepared, too coordinated in trying to create chaos. His military experience had taught him to recognize planned operations, even poorly executed ones. Dr. Chen, seeing Cooper's serious expression, quickly engaged Emma in an activity. Would you like to help me prepare the Tiger's enrichment toys? We fill these special balls with treats that they have to work to get out. It keeps them active and smart. While Emma was happily helping Dr. Chen, the security guard continued his update. The police want to thank you again. Your combat experience helped you spot warning signs that regular security might have missed. The chief would like to know if you'd be willing to help train our security team in threat assessment. Cooper watched Emma laughing as she helped hide treats in the tiger toys. I'd be happy to help, he replied. Maybe we can prevent situations like this before they escalate. The guard nodded appreciatively. That would be great. Oh, and one more thing. The zoo director wants you to have this. He handed Cooper an envelope. Inside was a lifetime family membership to the zoo and a special pass for behind-the-scenes tours. We've never had anyone handle a situation so professionally, the guard explained. Most people either freeze up or try to be heroes and make things worse. You protected everyone while minimizing harm. That's exactly what we try to teach our security team. Emma came running back, her eyes bright with excitement. Daddy, Dr. Chen says we can come back next week to watch the tigers try to find the treats we hid. Can we please? Cooper smiled, showing her the membership card. Looks like we can come back whenever you want, Princess. We're special members now. Dr. Chen joined them, carrying a stuffed tiger. This is for you, Emma. He's wearing a little army uniform, just like your dad used to wear. To remind you that protectors come in all forms, some in uniform, some with stripes. Emma hugged the stuffed tiger tightly. I'm going to name him Sergeant Stripes, she declared, making all the adults laugh. As they prepared to leave the special viewing area, Cooper reflected on how this day had turned out. What started as a frightening situation had transformed into something positive. His military training had not only helped him protect people, but would now continue to do so through teaching others. Most importantly, Emma had learned that her father's strength wasn't about hurting people, it was about protecting them. Later that evening, after a full day at the zoo, Cooper sat in the local police station giving his final statement. Emma was in the break room next door, happily showing her new stuffed Sergeant Stripes to Officer Martinez's daughter, who was visiting her mother at work. The two girls had quickly become friends, sharing stories about their brave parents. Detective Williams, a seasoned officer with graying hair, reviewed the security footage one more time on his computer screen. Sergeant Cooper, I have to say, in 20 years on the force, I've rarely seen someone handle a situation this cleanly. 3 armed suspects, neutralized without any serious injuries, and all caught on camera. Cooper sat straight in his chair, still maintaining his military posture. Just did what I was trained to do, sir. Protect civilians and use appropriate force. He glanced at the evidence bags on the detective's desk containing the knife and brass knuckles. Well, your training probably helped us crack something bigger, Detective Williams said, turning his computer screen to show Cooper some files. Those 3 weren't just random troublemakers. The Iron Wolves have been causing problems all across the state. They film themselves harassing families at public places, then post the videos online to recruit new members and intimidate communities. The detective clicked through several police reports showing similar incidents at other family venues, parks, museums, and community centers. But they got sloppy this time. The phones we confiscated have evidence linking them to at least 12 other incidents. Plus, their social media accounts are full of plans for future attacks. Cooper frowned as he looked at the reports. They specifically target places with families. Yes, and that's not all, Detective Williams continued. We found messages suggesting they were planning something big at next month's city festival. Your actions today didn't just protect the zoo, you helped us prevent what could have been a serious public disturbance. A knock on the door interrupted them. Officer Martinez entered with Emma and her daughter Lisa. Sorry to interrupt, but someone's here to see Sergeant Cooper. Behind Officer Martinez stood Sarah, the ticket seller from the zoo, now in casual clothes instead of her work uniform. She smiled shyly. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I just wanted to let you know that the video of how you handled those men has gone viral. People are calling you the protector of the zoo. Cooper looked uncomfortable with the attention, but Sarah continued. It's actually having a really positive effect. The zoo's social media is full of comments from veterans sharing their own stories about adjusting to civilian life and using their training to help others. You're inspiring people. Detective Williams nodded approvingly. She's right. Our department's already received calls from other veterans offering to help with community safety programs. Sometimes people just need to see an example of how military training can be used for everyday protection, not just in war zones. Emma, who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke up. Daddy, does this mean other soldier daddies will help keep people safe too? Cooper pulled his daughter into a gentle hug. That's right, Princess. Sometimes soldiers have a hard time when they come home because they don't know how to use their training in normal life. Maybe our day at the zoo will help them figure it out. Officer Martinez smiled at the scene. The chief wants to start a community safety program with veteran volunteers. Would you be interested in helping coordinate it, Sergeant Cooper? We could use someone with your experience and judgment. Before Cooper could answer, another officer rushed into the room. Sir, you need to see this. The Iron Wolves clubhouse just surrendered to police. After the video of what happened at the zoo went viral, most of their members didn't want to risk confrontation with law enforcement. They're turning in their leaders and evidence of all their planned activities. Detective Williams let out a low whistle. Well, would you look at that? Seems like your example is already making waves, Sergeant Cooper. One soldier's proper response to 3 troublemakers might have just prevented dozens of future incidents. Cooper felt Emma's small hand slip into his. She looked up at him proudly. See, Daddy? You're still protecting people, just like in the army. But now you get to come home to me every night. Looking around the room at the supportive faces, Cooper realized that his military service hadn't ended when he left Afghanistan. It had just changed form. Now, instead of protecting people in a war zone, he could help make his own community safer, all while showing his daughter what it truly meant to be a protector. 1 month later, Cooper and Emma returned to the zoo on a bright Sunday morning. This time, they weren't alone. A group of 20 veterans in civilian clothes walked with them, listening attentively as Cooper explained the new community safety program. Each veteran wore a special blue volunteer badge, marking them as part of the Community Protectors Initiative that had grown from the incident with the bikers. Remember, Cooper addressed the group near the Tiger exhibit. Our military training taught us to handle threats, but here we're focusing on prevention and peaceful resolution. We want families to feel safe while keeping confrontation as a last resort. Emma stood proudly beside her father, wearing a miniature blue volunteer badge of her own. Sergeant Stripes, her stuffed tiger in army uniform, was clutched firmly in her arms. The toy had barely left her side in the past month, becoming a symbol of protection for her and many other children who had heard their story. Dr. Chen, the tiger specialist, joined them with exciting news. Raja and Khan have completely settled in now, she said, gesturing to the 2 tigers lounging in the morning sun. Their story has become quite popular with our visitors. We even created an educational program about protective behaviors in both animals and humans, inspired by what happened here. Sarah, the ticket seller who had protected Emma during the incident, was now dating one of the veterans from Cooper's program. She walked up with a tablet, showing Cooper the zoo's latest social media statistics. The Protector of the Zoo video has reached over 10 million views, she reported. But more importantly, look at these messages. The tablet showed hundreds of comments from veterans around the country, sharing their own stories of using military training to help their communities. Some had started similar programs in their cities, while others had found new purpose in civilian life after seeing how Cooper had handled the situation. The Iron Wolves gang has completely disbanded, added Officer Martinez, who had stopped by to check on the program. Most of their members have enrolled in rehabilitation programs, and some are even working with us to prevent other gangs from targeting family venues. Your example showed them there's a better way to use their strength. Emma tugged at Cooper's sleeve. Daddy, can we show them the special viewing area? The one where we helped make toys for Raja and Khan? Cooper smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. Actually, Princess, Dr. Chen has something even better planned. He nodded to the tiger specialist, who stepped forward with a grin. Today, Dr. Chen announced to the group, we're starting a new program where veterans will help us create enrichment activities for our animals. Your military experience with problem solving and strategic thinking can help us design better ways to keep our animals active and engaged. The veterans' faces lit up at this unexpected opportunity. One former Marine raised his hand. You mean we get to use our tactical planning skills to make tiger toys? Exactly, Dr. Chen laughed. And not just for tigers. We have dozens of species that need mental and physical stimulation. Your understanding of strategy and behavior could revolutionize how we care for them. As the group moved toward the behind-the-scenes area, Cooper held back for a moment with Emma. They watched Raja and Khan playing with one of the enrichment toys they had helped create during their last visit. You know, Princess, Cooper said softly, when I first came home from Afghanistan, I wasn't sure how to be both a soldier and a daddy in normal life. But you helped me figure it out. Emma looked up at him curiously. How did I help? Because protecting you isn't just about being strong or brave, he explained. It's about knowing when to be gentle, when to be firm, and always doing what's right. Just like we learned from the tigers. True strength is about protecting others, not proving how tough you are. Emma hugged Sergeant Stripes tighter. And now you're helping other soldier daddies learn that too. Cooper picked up his daughter, and together they walked to join the group. Behind them, Raja and Khan had settled down for a nap in the sun, peaceful and secure in their protected environment. The zoo had become more than just a place for families to see animals. It had become a symbol of how protection and strength could be used to make the world a little bit better, one peaceful action at a time. What had started as a frightening confrontation had transformed into something beautiful, a lesson about using power wisely, about turning military training into community service, and most importantly, about the special bond between a father and daughter who had helped each other find their place in a peaceful world.